Hey, welcome to 24/7 Marriage Podcast. I'm Javier.
I'm Shannon. Welcome, everybody. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. And I'm not
Happy
sure when this comes
Tuesday.
out. It might be February already, so you may have already had a month under your belt.
Oh, it is
It is February?
February.
Okay. I
Yeah.
don't know when fully everything comes out, but yeah, that means you've had a month underneath your belt. And it means I had a birthday.
Oh, yeah. You're old.
Whoop, whoop.
I got to trade you in for a younger model.
I am 37 years young.
If I took you to the car dealership right now, how much would they give me?
You probably would have to pay them to take me in.
They're like, we can't give you anything, but here's a Chick-fil-A gift card.
I'm still like sitting here. I'm still in pain because, man, I don't know. What I did to myself when I was sick, and I literally coughed so hard that I tore an intercostal muscle between my ribs. I think it's still there. I don't know what's going on. And sitting in this position is not good. It might be a really short podcast because I'm hurting.
Well, maybe we need to get chairs with backs.
Probably so. So,
And as I'm balancing on a pillow, because my last podcast, I'm so much shorter than you, and I really don't like it.
So to be real, like I had a birthday. I just don't know what I did on my birthday because this is being recorded way before my birthday.
I can tell you what you did on your birthday.
I haven't had it yet. What did I do?
You probably went on a hike.
Okay.
We went to breakfast.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
And you saw your grandson.
Okay. I mean, I wanted to go to the snow and go snowshoeing and go cross country skiing, but it's probably not going to happen because there hasn't been that much snow.
Well, I mean,
does
Flagstaff have snow right now?
Last year I was up in Mammoth in California, and there was so much snow. It was incredible. And this year, there's not that much compared to what it was. And so, yeah. What are you banging at?
Well, our dog is being naughty.
Yeah, Shadow is trying to. Yeah,
she's trying to eat something she's not supposed to. So I'm just like, how
the joys of podcasting with Shadow.
Oh, it's not children interrupting our podcast; it's our dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Thank you. No, everything's good. It's been an interesting beginning of the year. Just processing next and what's next for 24/7 Marriage and things that we have on the radar and trying to grow and build the work that we're doing. So, for us, it's how do we have more impact upon couples? How do we reach more couples with resources and content? And it's always good when we hear from couples and we hear from people through DMs, and like we'd love to hear from you as well. Like, is the podcast impacting you? Like, what are you experiencing? What are you hearing?
Let me read one of them right now because it was so good. And she left. It has to do with boot camp, but she actually left it in a reel.
Yeah.
In the comments. And it was so good because this is
what's encouraging to us when we get to hear these things. And so I'm saying is like, that's our goal in our heart is like, how can we have more impact? And we hope that the podcast that, through social media, through boot camps, through everything else that we're doing, that it's having an impact upon your marriage. Because that's really our heart and our intent. It's not like we're in this for the money. We are in this because we believe in marriages, that they can be healed, restored, redeemed. They can be thriving and life-giving. And we want you to experience that.
Well, and I'm going to tease at the end of our podcast.
Tease it, Shannon.
My new course that's coming out called 10-Day Reboot for Wives.
Tease it.
But this is Liz. And Liz and Billy came to our Washington boot camp, and they have been
They're awesome.
They have been so plugged into everything 24/7 Marriage, and I just love what she had to say. I'm so grateful for the 24/7 crew. My husband and I went to the Washington boot camp. I'm so grateful that we went. The consistent presence on social media. I come to see daily content that truly helps me and us. The humor, the realness of your life experienced together, Javier and Shannon, paired with the beautiful presence of God and his word, truly has changed my posture. I am seeing and experiencing new beautiful things for us. Thank you so much. Please know you're helping people so very much.
Yeah.
And for that, when I see messages like that, it's like a shot in the arm because I'm like, that's the encouragement that I need throughout the week because it gets kind of lonely in what we do.
Sure.
And
plus she's only with me all the time. So she gets, it's
Yeah.
helpful to hear from other people.
Do you hear crickets? If you had a keyboard, would you play crickets right now?
Hmm.
Well, but you can't encourage me. We can't sit inside the
I
vacuum
can
and
encourage
encourage
you.
what you can't encourage.
I
You
know what you mean.
can't be the one encouraging the work we're doing.
Yeah.
Shannon, that was such a great reel you made. That was so awesome what you said. It's like
No, we
I
do, but I know what you're
I
saying.
wouldn't
Like
care.
hearing, you wouldn't care.
Well, but it wouldn't matter because it's
Wow,
like
dig the hole deeper.
no,
So
no, no,
when I
no, no.
encourage you, it doesn't matter, and you don't care. Reel
Javier,
that one back in.
no,
Pull it
reel,
back in.
reel,
Reel it
reel
in,
it,
Shannon.
reel it,
Reel it
reel
in.
it, reel it. What I'm saying is that you're going to say those things to me because you are my cheerleader. You are on my
Okay.
side.
Okay.
But when somebody who spent money to
I
come
hear
to a
you.
boot camp,
I hear you.
who made the time to hit the follow button and the like, and she's like, now I just want to let you guys verbally know how
Yeah.
much I appreciate you. That does a lot
No, it's encouraging to us.
for us and the work that we do. And I
Yeah,
shared it with our whole team
it is.
so that they all know.
It is encouraging.
Because it can get lonely,
Oh,
Javier.
sweet Moses, my back hurts. Okay.
Or you want to wrap this
My
podcast
side
up?
hurt. Yeah, 6 minute podcast. Let's go. I've actually been wanting to do like a middle of the week or like a Monday marriage moment where we're recording just like a 5 minute podcast on a topic or a question that somebody sent in. I think that would be fun.
Why don't you do them by yourself?
Yeah, maybe we'll do them by myself. She doesn't want to do it with me because I don't encourage her, apparently.
That's not what
Excuse
I
me.
said.
I'm sorry. So there's a lot of great topics that we can come, but I think right now, what I keep seeing a lot of is um, these what culture has deemed what marriage is and what it should be, and
Not
what
culture. It
social
started. It
media,
started with.
what
It started with books, Avi.
yeah, but movies, everything. What it paints this picture of this myth
Yeah.
of what marriage is, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today. Is this myth of marriage and debunking what culture says it should be, what it should look like, and and kind of what culture got wrong about happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important topic to talk about, just because we have these myths about marriage, whether we're already in it or you might be going into it and listening to
Well,
this.
but here's why we buy into it, though. We buy into it because you get to a certain age in life where you just know life's hard. Like maybe your parents got divorced, you lost a parent, you went through a really hard season, you grow up, maybe didn't get into the college you wanted, maybe you were abused or neglected. Like you experience hard things. So when we buy into this happily ever after, we know that life's hard. So we look at that and we cling to it because we're like, at least I'll be happy in marriage and we'll have each other
Yeah.
and it'll be great because
Yeah.
they're just always going to make me smile.
Yeah.
They're always going to fill my tank.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be without because I have this person in my corner. And while some of those things aren't necessarily far off or false, we buy into it for the wrong reasons, and
Yeah.
one of them being that we put that happiness on
Sure.
somebody else to make us
Yeah.
happy, and that's a very narcissistic way to look
Yeah.
at marriage.
Well, and there's a couple things happening in culture right now that culture is telling us, like, no, don't get married. You can have all the joys and all the pleasures you want, and you don't have to commit. You don't have to get married. You don't have to enter into a covenant of marriage. And so there's a place where even individuals are waiting longer to get married, living in a place or like out of wedlock, maybe together. So there's this place that culture has deemed it normal. Just, oh, you can have all the benefits of that, but not actually commit in the covenant of marriage of giving yourselves to one another. Or
But
culture's telling you you can get married and just make sure you're getting what you need and what you want. If not, then yeah, maybe just go find someone else then. Or you're not happy, then go find someone else who makes you happy.
what happens is people don't become important and sacred to us, they become transactional.
Yeah.
Because
Contractual.
we but transactional too in the fact that, well, we're going to move in together. If it doesn't work out, then we'll go our separate ways, but I'm going to get my sexual needs met. I have somebody to hang
say
out.
it.
I have somebody to hang out with on the weekends. I have
Yep.
somebody who will maybe cook and clean, pick up the apartment for us. But if it doesn't work out, we're going to dip out. I'm feeling it,
But listen,
and we're going to move on.
we have a culture that's teaching young men that you don't have to do those things.
What
young men
things?
who aren't stepping up to actually lead well, to understand what it means to be to prepare to be a husband. Young men who have grown apathetic, who have grown lazy, who
Is
have
it
grown entitled.
but is it their fault?
No, we have a culture who's teaching that. We have they can
Dads.
we have dads who haven't given that example. Maybe they didn't see it either growing up, who have disengaged from initiating their sons into masculinity and into manhood. We have men who aren't stepping up, who aren't providing, who aren't leading in that way.
Can I ask a
And
question?
so,
How long are we going to use that as an excuse? I'm
what?
sorry, but this I didn't see this growing up, so therefore I didn't do it, and then that generation didn't do it, and it gets
No,
passed
I
down.
hear you, and
I
it shouldn't be an excuse. I
there,
recognize.
yeah, the way that my mom parented me, I did not like. It was not good. It was toxic.
Okay,
I made a conscious decision that I was not going to parent my
yeah,
girls that way. And I made every effort and I learned and I leaned in to a lot of books,
yeah,
to people, to
yeah,
mentorship to learn something different. I wasn't going to
yeah.
repeat history.
But I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm not saying there are some people who use it as an excuse. But what I'm saying is just acknowledging the fact that there are
Yes.
many people, many
Yes.
young men who have not seen an example of what that looks
Yes.
like.
Yes.
So there's times I can expect a young man in today's culture. Well, why wouldn't you do that? Or you're just newly married. How would you not get up and serve your wife or help with the dishes or do these things? Like they didn't see it, and they probably would maybe, they don't even see it. But the moment you say like, "Hey, maybe like, do you want to go help with the dishes?" "Oh yeah, absolutely," oblivious until they're like asked, and they're more than happy to.
Or they say,
So
no, that's her job.
yeah, there's that too. So we want to just debunk some of the myths that you've heard within culture, and then like what is the truth of with what Scripture says and what we believe. And so starting here, that marriage will make me happy and fulfill my needs. Right? That's a cultural message that marriage is often portrayed as this ultimate source of happiness and of fulfillment. And if you get married, everything's going to be good and up and to the right, and every one of your needs is going to be met, and
Well,
you'll be happy.
that's the
And then
antithesis.
what happens? We have an unhappy season, moment, life happens, loss happens, layoffs, financial infidelity, all these things happen. We're not happy. Then what
We
happens?
litmus test it against what our false belief is, and then we say, this isn't adding up, so I need to leave. I need a new spouse. This isn't making me happy. It's
Yeah.
the antithesis of the Bible, because according to Scripture, um, you don't deserve anything. You only deserve death.
Ooh, geez.
I
Getting
know.
heavy.
So you don't deserve happiness.
Yeah.
You don't deserve fulfillment. You don't deserve to be pursued. You don't deserve any of those things. Those are things that are blessings that
And they
come
do
from a
happen
covenant
of marriage.
of
Yeah.
marriage. But let me tell you, even the very best marriages that are God honoring, God centered, they have their they have seasons and they have their days off where they're not on, where
Yeah.
they mess up, where
Yeah.
we say the wrong thing, we
Yeah.
do the wrong thing.
It's not going to fulfill all your needs. So the biblical truth behind that myth is marriage is not about self-fulfillment. It is about serving one another. It is about glorifying God together. It is about the purpose of marriage is God to reflect and image his. It is a ministry that others watch and see. But it comes like you have joy in your relationship because you are serving God with one another, and you are in a covenant of marriage. And so that is a myth that can be dispelled, that it's not about happy and just fulfilling my needs. Because what happens is I have these needs, I have these expectations, they don't get met. And then you feel like, well, they're not doing that for me. So therefore, I'll go find someone who will. And then you will be very disappointed because that next person is going to be the same thing again. They might meet one of these other needs, but it'll be a list of others that
Yeah.
they are
But let
not.
me tell you, social media does not help this at all anyway, because the algorithms know once you click on one video about one divorced wife and how she's living her best life,
Yeah.
your algorithm's going to kick that all into your face, and that you're going to be on a landslide of self-help. You need to focus on you. You need to take care of you. You need to get your needs met. You need this.
You
You need
deserve
that.
this.
And it becomes very narcissistic quickly.
Yeah.
Like it spirals
Yeah.
quickly. And that's not what covenant is. But I have to make a disclaimer. We're not talking about any type of abuse within marriage,
Sure.
verbal, physical,
Yeah.
or sexual. That is not what we are talking about, that you should stay and tolerate any type of abuse. That is wrong.
Yeah.
It is toxic, and you need to put yourself in a place of safety.
Yeah.
We are talking about those days when you don't feel happy and your needs aren't getting met, and he's not doing this, and he's still dealing with that, and she won't do this and she won't do that. It's all these nitpicky things that we decide that we're going to uproot a whole marriage and
Yeah.
probably children to go
Yeah.
find something somewhere else that probably already exists in the marriage you have, but you're not going to work hard enough to get it.
Well, you need it's looking past those things and being willing to commit to like, no, we're going to do the hard work. Yeah, this is not what I thought, but this is what I've committed to. This is the covenant that I'm in, and
Yeah.
so I'm going to believe the best in one another. Another myth is, and we hear this from couples that we do sometimes premarital with when we were doing more of that in the past. If it's true love, it's going to be easy. We love each
Oh,
other. Oh
Lord.
my God, we're so in love. Our love is not like anybody else's
It's
love.
it's the first
It's
time on the
special.
planet Earth.
It's
Yeah.
so, so unique.
So
It's not like
special.
anybody else's love.
Yeah.
And that the cultural messages that movies and media and social media, like all of that, depicts love as effortless and without conflict. Like it was just meant to be. And the biblical truth on the other side of that is marriage requires intentional effort. It requires 24/7 intentional effort, self-sacrifice at times, grace. Like love is a choice to love somebody unconditionally. It's not a feeling. It is a daily decision to love and pursue that person in difficulties, where like really difficulties are opportunities for growth, to
Effortless.
strengthen and to sanctify yourself, like to remove things from your life that aren't good. So, this myth that if it's true love, it'll always be easy is so incredibly
Well,
false because it requires you to be intentional. And it's not just love's going to carry us through. You've got to work at your marriage. You have to have grace and have unconditional love that's not based upon their
so
performance or
the
behaviors.
that love that you feel is good. That love is supposed to carry you through the toughest seasons and
Sure.
valleys of your life, of your married life. It doesn't mean, so this is where people get that myth mixed up, is that this euphoric love that we feel, it's so amazing and so unique that we will never encounter any problems or have any
Yeah.
hills to
Yeah.
climb or valleys to
Then they
go
get married and
through.
they're so shocked, like, what happened? Like,
Okay. So that love that you felt, what God brought that to you so that you could get through the valley and get through all of the hard stuff. I promise you, you will go through hard stuff in your marriage. I
yeah,
don't know if it'll come on day 1 or day 100, but it is coming, and you have
yeah,
to know how to get through it. Listen, God designed marriage for a reason. He put two very, very different people together.
to help heal one
Just
another.
because you have this effortless love that you think you have, you are still so innately different that it humbles you at every turn in your marriage, because you are forced to look at a person who is nothing like you. They don't think, they don't process, they don't interpret things the way that you do. We do not have the same emotions. We have different
Yeah,
strengths. So you are continually being humbled by God to be like, wow, there's something I just learned about you.
yeah,
I didn't know that about you.
yeah,
That's kind of frustrating, but
yeah,
I love you and I want to figure this out. Or wow, I didn't know that about you. There's
yeah.
so many, it's like layers of an onion.
Yeah.
Um
So that is a myth. Like if it's true
yes.
love, it will always be easy. That is an absolute myth. We tell couples at boot camp is that the promise you made at the altar is not proved at the altar. The promise you made at the altar is proved in the valley.
That's right.
In the moments of difficulty and struggle is where it's proved. And that's when you lean upon one another, where you sacrifice, where you have grace because you didn't expect this season to happen.
Yeah.
The loss of a child, the loss of a job, like addictions, infidelity. I didn't expect that. I didn't sign up for that. You're right. Maybe you didn't. But this is what you where you are now, and you have to choose to move towards one another. Another myth: my spouse should always complete me. Like my spouse should always complete me. And that's a cultural message, right? Suggests that your spouse is the other half who completes you. Like you complete me. What's it, Jerry Maguire?
You complete me.
You complete me, right? Or
Yeah.
you had me at hello.
Yeah.
Like I love that. But you complete me. Okay. Maybe there's a little piece of that that can be true in some respect, but the biblical truth of that is only God can truly complete us. Only He can validate who you are, your value, your worth, your identity. Because if we
Yeah.
go to our spouse to get our value and our worth, then we will be disappointed because, again, there's days where I'm not Shannon's favorite person. And so if I'm looking for my identity and my value from my spouse, I'm going to be very disappointed. So only God can complete you, knowing your value and your worth in and through Him. It's where two whole people serve God together, right? Serve God and serve one another. That's what you're called to do.
But I believe that we complete each other with God at the center. So if we believe that marriage is not just a relationship you have, it's a ministry, that we with God at the center, the three of us are complete in accomplishing a mission and a purpose that our marriage has.
Yeah, we can do something together to
Yes.
help accomplish that mission and
Yes.
direction. But what I'm saying is like only God can truly complete me
And God can
and
only answer
you.
the deepest questions of what are in your heart of
Yeah.
who am I? Do I have what it
Yes.
takes? Am I fully loved?
But I do believe that God knits us together with somebody, and that
Yes.
in our marriage we're meant to help heal one another also.
Yes.
Because there's moments where you've had times of weakness, and I've been able to come alongside. When I went through a season of depression, Shannon was able to come in and encourage me and love on me and invest into me and actually help bring healing because of how she did that, of how she self-sacrificed and how she laid things down and knew in certain times she wouldn't get what she needed or hoped for in that marriage, but that God would answer that for her. And so we've done that through seasons of marriage and not looking that I'm sorry, that we get to heal one another and walk alongside one another. Like there's things that come up in your marriage that you're like, oh my gosh, like this just came to the surface of abuse at a young age and it's been impacting our marriage. And now your spouse gets to walk alongside you in that, and it gives them some clarity on why maybe there's been some disconnection or some lack of intimacy at times,
Yeah.
and it gives a picture of that. And so you make a choice at that moment to be able to walk together in that and not to allow it to cause separation or division,
There's
but actually walk
yeah.
with your spouse and help them through that.
hmm
And I think that's a way where not that we complete, but that we get to heal one another.
There's been so many couples over the last 20, 25 years that we've encountered, counseled, coached, met at a boot camp or whatever, that have gone through something really hard. And the visionary in me can see, oh my gosh, if they lay it all down and let God intervene and heal, what they're going through could be such a testimony.
Yeah.
I can see how they can walk alongside each other and heal each other and bring each other closer to God and restore, and that this marriage I could see in a year, 2 years could be such a testimony. But yeah, it goes the other direction, and it's so devastating cuz I could it wasn't that I wasn't seeing, I felt like I was seeing what God was seeing. Like I can come in and I can do what only I can do. That I am the miracle worker. God still does miracles today. He still restores, redeems, and brings hope to broken and restored and broken people. And I've seen it time and time again, and
Yeah.
it's very frustrating on the outside because you see what could be,
Yeah.
but yet you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so frustrating,
Yeah.
so
You
sad. Yeah.
people want to hear you, so you got to make sure they can hear you.
They can hear
You
me.
pull so far away from your microphone that I'm hoping they
I
can hear you.
Javi, I did not pull
Shan.
far away.
Conflict. That's another one.
Mm.
Another myth that we hear often. Um, we argue a lot, so we're probably not compatible. Conflict means that we're not compatible. That's a myth. Um, we must not be made for each other because we always argue. Listen, culture says, yeah, disagreements or struggles are signs that you're incompatible, that there's failure. And I'm like, the biblical truth is no, not at all. conflict is going to happen. So normalize conflict.
Yeah.
Conflict doesn't mean that you're broken, that your relationship, yeah, your marriage is unhealthy, and that you shouldn't be together. It's just part of our human nature, our sinfulness, that we're going to have conflict, that because we have pride and we don't want to lay down things, and we hold on to our ideals and our expectations, and we don't want to lay it down.
Yeah.
So conflict is really an opportunity to draw closer together, an opportunity to discover one another, an opportunity to grow in forgiveness and humility, to take ownership. Like, we are called to resolve conflict, to move towards one another. And so ultimately, like, conflict does not mean, that's a myth, that you're incompatible. If you're having a lot of conflict within your
Yeah.
marriage, recognize that, okay, how do we have healthy conflict?
Yeah.
How do we, quote unquote, fight fair? How do we move towards one another and recognize, oh, let's just normalize conflict? It's
Yeah.
going to happen, but what are things that, hey, we don't say this, we don't do this. Here's how we do have disagreements and how we seek to understand one another. And it's not a sign that we're doing bad, it's a sign that we're actually two different people coming together, trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And how can we honor one another, respect one another, have conversations, and come to an agreement?
I grew up in a home where my parents would say they never argued. They never disagreed or had
I
conflict.
call
So, but what I'm saying is, I grew up in that home, ladies and gentlemen. It was not healthy at times.
people can say that, but it's what they're really saying is like, yeah, we actually don't talk about the difficult issues. We actually, I don't bring those things up because they're just going to get upset.
Actually,
They're going to get
if I could
angry.
sit down my dad, I'd be like, Dad, you are a major. You have like a
Avoider.
4-star general in avoiding, and
Yeah.
that's why you and mom never had
Yeah.
conflict.
Well, we didn't do that in our family. We don't bring those things up. Or if I do, then this is what's going to happen. You have to be able to, in your marriage, be able to bring things to your spouse without fear that there's going to be an explosion. And if that's the case, like, there's a way you can do it. There's a way you can bring up topics and discuss things and be like, how can we work on this
But
together?
if you're an explosive person, that's something separately that needs to be addressed. That means that you don't have good self regulation. That
Yeah.
means that you don't have good practices. And there could be something in your family of origin or something in your past that needs to be addressed so that you can have a conversation that maybe does get your blood boiling. Maybe it is a really hot topic in your marriage, but there should not be a reason why your spouse would avoid something because they're scared of how you would react.
Yeah.
That means that
Yeah.
there's something that you need to address and work on personally within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really good point. This is one that I think kind of goes along with, like, one of the ones we talked about already, about if it's true love, it'll be easy, type of thing. That marriage is about my happiness. And this is one that maybe
It's
you've heard
not.
often. There's something in my
That's
eye.
narcissistic.
That marriage,
I don't
so
like it.
culture would tell you personal happiness, that is the ultimate goal. And if you're not happy, you can just say stuff like, oh, we fell out of love. And I always tell people, well, you fell out of repentance. You're not willing to actually work on things and deal with things.
Well,
The
say,
biblical truth, though, hold on.
yeah.
The cultural
Okay.
myth was that the biblical truth is marriage is about reflecting Christ's love, serving one another, fulfilling God's purposes. It's a relationship rooted in selflessness, in a commitment, and it's not about happiness, right? Gary Thomas wrote his book, and talks about the marriage is meant for your
Sacred
for
marriage,
your sacred marriage. He said your marriage is meant for your holiness, not
not
your
your
happiness,
happiness.
because those moments of happiness do come and go. And I'm not saying that you can't be happy. You're not happy in your marriage. Like,
You
we're
will.
happy, but there's moments where, like, there's the difficult season and a struggle or a loss, whatever it is, and you don't feel, quote unquote, happy. And so it's really about, okay, how do I serve, and how do I love, and how do I give of myself, and how do I reflect and image God in my marriage? And that brings joy. But it's not about happiness. You seek that, you're going to be really disappointed in the moments when it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, I hate that we fell out of love, meaning that using that word fell means that it was accidental. When you trip on the giant rug going out of the grocery store, that was accidental.
Yeah.
When you stepped off a curb and you didn't know a curb was there, that was accidental. Those are things that happen that are like you didn't see it coming. That was out of your control. You you choose to to pursue your spouse regardless of what you are feeling.
Yeah.
Love is a choice, not a
Yeah.
feeling, and that's where culture, um, listen, it pumps it into your veins 24/7 through social media, music, and movies and television,
Yeah.
that it is a feeling, and when the feeling is gone, it is time to move on,
Yeah.
and it is a bunch of bull
Yeah.
loney.
So I'm hoping that we have debunked some of those myths that you have heard from culture that you're hearing right now in
Yes.
culture of what you deserve. Listen, you are called to the most beautiful, the most complicated, difficult, but yet rewarding relationship in human
Are you calling
history.
me difficult?
Yes.
Okay.
And so you're invited into that, and it really sharpens you. It tests you. It strengthens you. It will stretch you. Like that's what it's meant to do. It is a really a beautiful invitation to discovering what you're truly like is what marriage is. And
Yeah.
so don't buy into what culture says, but live in a way that honors God, that reflects and images Him, knowing that the minute you said I do, that is the right person for you. And it wasn't about your happiness or that every need is being met or that, oh, we're going through a difficult time or they're not listening or we have arguments. All those things are meant to strengthen and to grow you closer to God and then to one another. And so you make a decision every day to not allow culture and society to dictate your marriage and what happens within it. But for God to do that, for you guys to come together, to pray together, to say that everything we encounter, that everything we do is going to point to God and honor Him. And so you have an incredible opportunity to build a marriage that is thriving, that is God honoring, and that ultimately you debunk all the myths of culture and you build in a culture that's set against tearing down marriage, you build a marriage that
Yeah.
points people to God
Yeah.
and that people can say, and your children can say, but God, see what took place because they honored one another. They moved towards one another. They didn't call it quits when it was difficult or when they weren't getting along. They died to themselves and they served one another. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yes.
All right.
I
I
love
think
it.
that puts a bow on it.
It did.
And
It put a bow on it.
so, hey, 24/7 Marriage Family, love you. We appreciate you.
Well,
If
I
you
wanna
want to
tell them about our course real quick
So tell
coming
them
up.
about the course. But if you want to partner with us in the work that we're doing, please go to 247marriage.org. You can donate there. You can find out more about the work that we're doing because we are supported by individuals like you who believe in the work we're doing, who have been impacted by the work of 24/7 Marriage. So tell them, Shannon, about the
Yes.
course.
So, in the middle of February, I have a new course, a video course. It is a 10-day course. It's actually a 12-day course, but 10 days sounds better. You get 2 bonus days. 10-day reboot for wives. This is going to uh we're calling it is power down and reboot how you see your marriage. So I believe that when we power down and we reboot God's vision for your marriage, how you see your husband, how you pray for him, and how you are his biggest cheerleader can change the trajectory of your marriage. And this course, I believe, is going to change so many marriages. So I'm very excited. Please be on the lookout for 10-day reboot for wives. It's coming out the middle of February.
Yeah, awesome. We love and appreciate each and every one of you. And always remember in marriage, you don't have to.
You get to.
Have an incredible week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the 24/7 Marriage Podcast. Help us expand our reach by rating and leaving us a review on iTunes. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more information on the work we do and how to support the 24/7 Marriage, head on over to 247marriage.org and click on Partner with Us. Until next week, remember, in marriage you don't have to, you get to.